One of the most important areas of succeeding in property investing is finding the right area. Now, when you're looking at the cash flow strategy where you have sufficient rent to cover your monthly expenses, the areas that don't work are your more affluent, higher income suburban areas. The areas where your cash flow tends to work are more in your lower income / inner city type environments. Now, when you are looking for the right investment area, you have to consider whether the yield is strong enough, so i.e. is there enough rent to cover the monthly expenses? And the second, and probably the most important element, is the risk that you're investing in. A couple of weeks ago on the September of 2021, I had a guest speaker on my webinar by the name of Michelle Dickens. She is the founder and CEO of TPN. And during this webinar, she shared with us the top performing suburbs of 2021. In this short educational, I will be taking you through a specific province's performance and which are the highest rated suburbs in that province. Let's have a look at KZN, KwaZulu-Natal, in terms of good standing, vacancy and gross yield. Now, when I'm looking at these four regions within KZN, the first thing that stands out for me is the North Coast. Specifically that its vacancy rate is so low. Now, there's a distinction between vacancy rate and good standing. Your good standing ratio is the likelihood of your tenants paying rent on time. The vacancy is the number of empty units within the region, and what I've seen over the last 2 years, especially known as the COVID years, is that the vacancy rate has shot up quite a lot, as well as the good standing ratio has gone down. So the good standing ratio within the North Coast region is not that high. It's actually one of the lower performing areas in KZN. And if we compare it to Gauteng and Western Cape, it is substantially lower, but it's also got a low vacancy rate. So that means that there is not a lot of open or empty units within the North Coast, which is something that I am quite interested in because, if you want to find the right kind of rental area to invest in, you want to make sure that there's not a lot of empty units, right? If we look over to the right, Pietermaritzburg's got a very good standing ratio, sitting at 87, almost 88%. That's one of the top performing that I've seen recently. The gross yield is not bad, 9.9% with a 7% vacancy rate. So Pietermaritzburg, if I'm looking at this from just purely that perspective, Pietermaritzburg definitely stands out as the best or top performing sort of region within KZN, followed by the North Coast. Then we've got KZN, sort of your CBD or your central. On the far left is sitting at a 10% gross yield, which is pretty average, 78% good standing and a 10% vacancy. Itaquini, that's not looking so good, 14% vacancy rate with a very low good standing ratio. So although the gross yield is pretty attractive, sitting at just above 10%, it's probably not going to be the region that performs the best. So in terms of order of priority, when I'm looking at these, I would say Pietermaritzburg is your top performing area, then North Coast and your KZN area are kind of similar, and then Itaquini is your lowest performing region. Let's dive a little bit deeper to understand where this statistics are coming from. So if we're looking at our top 3 performing sort of suburbs or areas within KZN, we've got Itaquini, we've got the North Coast, and we've got the South Coast. So let's start with Itaquini. I think the first suburb that really stands out for me is this suburb known as Hildeen. Now, I don't have any investments in KZN, so I'm speaking purely on what I'm seeing here from the TPN data. I can't really confirm or certify that any of this information is accurate because I don't have that actual experience in the region. So let's just trust that this data is accurate, and this data is telling us that Hildeen has got a close to 16% capital appreciation rate. So that's what that blue bar indicates. That's the percentage on average of the cap rate or the capital appreciation rate, so the rate at which the properties appreciate in value. That's phenomenal. The only other place that I've seen that has such a high cap rate would be the Mykonos in Cape Town, in the Western Cape area, which is also sitting at a very high capitalization rate. So that's phenomenal. If you're looking at an area where you can invest and your equity is going to grow, the property is going to increase in value over time, Hildeen is where you want to be. On top of that, you've got a substantially high gross yield or effective yield. So that green bar is telling you how high your yield has gone. So your gross yield in the Hildene area is just shy of 25%. The delinquency rate is, almost negligible. So your effective yield is sitting at about 24%. That's phenomenal. If you're looking for a good rental area, not only just a rental area, but it's got the capitalization rate of 15%. Hildene, simple. That's where you need to be going. You've got some other really good performing areas, Finelands, Woodhaven, Field Hills, Kenville, Berkshire Downs, New Germany, Glen Hill, Ashley, Seaview. I don't know any of these areas. Like I said, I don't have any investments in KZN, but all of them are hovering around that 15% gross yield mark. For me, anything below 15% is not an area that I would consider, because there's just not going to be enough rent to justify the expenses. When we start looking at areas like Woodhaven, potentially Avoca, I hope I'm saying that correctly, your delinquency rate is quite high. So I would probably, if I was in the Itaquini area, Hildene is where I'd definitely be focusing on, followed by Finlands. And then maybe I'd consider, the sort of this middle bracket here between Fields Hills and Glen Hill. They all look like relatively similar performing areas with decent or relatively low delinquency rates. But really, Hildene, very exciting area to be looking at. Let's shift our focus over to the north coast. We've got Kwadukuza, NU, which is performing really well, just under 10% for its capitalization rate, low delinquency opportunities, and a decent gross yield. Kashiruna, I don't know if I've said that correctly, but also very strong capitalization rate, good gross yield, low delinquencies. Actually, everything, these 4 suburbs within the north coast, all very similar. Obviously, Vildevlei and Vil in Veda have got lower capital appreciation rates, but all in all, their gross yields are really good, sitting at about that 15%. So you're probably going to find some cash flow positive opportunities, and the delinquency rates are quite low. Finally, we've got the south coast. So we've got here Heberdean, Wood Grange, and Doonside. For me, the outstanding suburb there is obviously Heberdean. It's got the strongest capitalization rate. It's got almost no delinquencies, which is phenomenal. You only make money in the property rental game when your tenants pay on time. So the lower the delinquency rate, the lower your risk of not getting paid, the better your asset tends to perform. So I would definitely be looking at Heberdean. Wood Grange looks good. Doonside looks good. So all in all, I think KZN is probably not the best performing province. If we look at the Western Cape and the Gauteng, the other 2 videos or suburbs that I've deep dived into, they are much better performing provinces than KZN. But if KZN is your area of focus, I think there's some really nice pockets and suburbs that you should be keeping an eye on. Obviously, Hildene, that makes a lot of sense if you're in the Itaquini suburb. You've got a couple of areas in your north coast that you might be looking at, some suburbs. And then south coast, Heberdean seems like a safe bet. Good capitalization rate, good gross yield, low delinquencies. All in all, I think there's some great opportunity here for you to be making some money in the KZN market. I hope you enjoyed this. Please click subscribe, click that notification button so that anytime we have new videos, you are notified. And share with friends and family. Let's try and help everybody reach financial freedom through property. Until next time, happy investing.